Hi Dragonlings, my name is Sky, and I write urban fantasy under the name St. Haggis. Today we're doing a book unhaul. This video will actually be in two parts. Part 1 will consist of books I have read. If I have reviewed them, I will leave links to them in the description box below. Part 2 will consist of books I have not read but don't want for reasons I will explain. So let's get started. Disclaimer, I am horrible with names and I'm sorry if I pronounce them wrong.
Part 1.
These are books I've read and enjoyed for the most part. I just have very limited bookshelf space and now have either the ebook or the audiobook version of each of these books, so I'm saying goodbye to the physical copies. Book 1, Truth Witch by Susan Dennard. I checked out the audiobook from the library, I read it, I loved it, I just don't need the hardback, plus I'm not a big hardback fan, so this is going bye-bye. Book 2, this is Skip Beat, which contains volumes 1 through 3. It was one that my library had books 4 through 22. They didn't have the first 3 books, and I wanted to read them to see if I'd be interested in them, so I went ahead and bought this omnibus. I read it, not a huge fan of it. Book 3 is Requiem Song by Daniel Aronson. This consists of dragon shapeshifters. I love dragons, I love shapeshifters, and I bought this book. Couldn't get into it until I got the ebook, which I read in like 2 days. I'll probably give this one to my sister, who also reads about dragons and shapeshifters. We actually have a very similar reading taste, but it is leaving my shelf. Book 4, 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. I actually read this book a couple years ago in audiobook form, and I liked it. It was really interesting reading in audiobook form since it is about the main character is listening to a bunch of tapes, so that worked out extremely well. However, because I have the audiobook, I am saying goodbye to the paperback. Book 5, Swamp Ghost by Marcia Mira. This is a mystery with a hint of romance. I am not really into mysteries, but I have read this and I liked it. But I'm probably never going to read it again, so it needs to go to a new home with someone who will read it. Book 6 is actually a book I really enjoy. In fact, I think I gave this one 5 stars, and that is Great Beginnings by R.R. Verdi. I bought the paperback with the intention of reading it, and then ended up reading the ebook version in like a day. So it is amazing, but I'm going to go ahead and donate this to my library so that someone else can read it and enjoy it, because I have the ebook version. And along the same lines is Book 7, which is Dangerous Ways by R.R. Verdi. This is a big beefy book which I also have on ebook. This one I have not finished yet, but I have started reading it, and I am probably going to finish it in ebook form. I bought the paperback and then bought the ebook, and so now I'm going to read the ebook. Book 8 is A Fox's Love by Brandon Varnell. This is I'm not exactly certain of the genre. I think it's called anime novelization. It's a light novel based on Japanese animation, except this takes place in America. This is actually a decent book, but again, I bought the paperback with the intention of reading it and then bought the ebook. Book 9, Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. This is a book that I bought in paperback when I was still working at a used bookstore, and then later, just recently actually, checked out the audiobook from the library. I was not able to get into the paperback, but as soon as I put the audiobook in, there is something about Neil Gaiman's voice that just makes it much easier to read his books. I've now listened to 2 of his. I listened to Norse mythology and this one, and it was awesome. And last but not least, we have Lisey's Story by Stephen King. This is one I have listened to an audiobook a long time ago, and then re-listened to it recently, I think late last year actually. It is one of my favorite Stephen King books. I love it, but the paperback's got to go because I am running out of shelf space.
Part 2.
These are books I haven't read, and some of these books I've had for years but have not read them for one reason or another, and so it's time to say goodbye. Book 1, Killer Species by Michael P. Spradlin. This is a short children's novel that looks like one of those original sci-fi movies that's kind of corny, you know, Frankenfish, anyone? And while I love watching those movies and I find them highly amusing, I do not feel like reading one. Book 2, Rosebush by Michelle Jaffe. I don't know anything about this book. I don't remember. I'd have to reread the description in order to tell you. I think it's a mystery, and I'm not really into mysteries. Don't know where it came from. Don't know how it got on my shelf. Don't know how long it's been on my shelf, so it's time to say goodbye. Book 3, Let Us Know by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. I have read books by both John Green and Maureen Johnson's and liked them. Have never read anything by Lauren Miracle. While I liked both John Green and Maureen Johnson, I was not in love with them, and the more time passes, I think I bought this the day it came out in paperback, the more time passes, the less I want to read it. Bye. Book 4, Anna the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. I hear all kinds of awesome things on BookTube about this book. However, I've also heard and read in reviews that there is romantic romanticism of cheating, and not forcing of cheating, but like encouragement of it, which is just not my thing. I'm not interested in reading about it. Book 5, Dangerous Lover by Lisa Marie Wright. This is an erotica, and while I don't know anything about the description, I have hit that point where, thanks to all of the hype about 50 Shades of Grey and all of the books that have since come out since 50 Shades of Grey that seem to be promoting abusive relationships, I have no desire to read most eroticas out there. I'm kind of burnt out on eroticas. Book 6, Enchanted by Althea Curtis. This is an ARC, which stands for Advanced Reader Copy, that was given out at World Book Night US on April 23rd, 2014, and I believe I got this in early 2015, which means it's been on my shelf for almost 3 years. Book 7, the last one of this haul, Plague of the Dead by Z.A. Recht. This is a zombie novel, and while I like zombie novels, this is more of a horror, biohazard zombie novel, and it's just not something I'm into right now, and I don't want to read it. This has been on my shelf for a few years. So that's all I have for you today. Let me know in the comments below if you have read any of these books and what you thought of them. Like this video if you liked what you saw, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more. Bye!